My project is a video installation called the Downward Spiral, but might get shortened to just Spiral. And it's about the mental deterioration of someone presented in the form of a room which represents the person's mental state. The person in question will be in the room. I'll just have an actor in there. The camera will be static the entire time, and the person's face will be. I'll be using a mid shot for most of it, just to show the whole room. I'll probably do maybe a wide shot, just to show the whole room and the person in it. They'll probably be sat at a table or in a chair, somewhere still. They won't be moving around. At least in the current format the video's in. And their face will be highlighted in some way, probably lit up, illuminated, and their facial expressions will reflect the mental state. It will give the viewer more of an idea on what the mental state is, give you more of an idea of, like, I guess it'll be a way of easing them in, like, what this is, without having to read instructions and, like, a description about what this is. So, as their mental state gets worse, the room gets more messy, more grimy, kind of like a video version of Ever at the End of Time, except this isn't really dementia. This is more depression, anxiety, or even just going completely insane. I want to leave that part open to interpretation to the individual, what they think the person is going through. The viewer, I mean. And I could possibly have it in the form of an experiment, in the style of an experiment. So have the room not really be a room, it's a lab, but styled like a room. And have someone come in and basically change things around, make the room more messy. And it's like supposed to be the person causing them trauma and affecting their mental state, because generally when people go through bad stuff, a lot of the time another person is responsible for that, and I want to show that in this video. There's also, I'd have it be projected to give it more of a, because there's a piece at Rift from Baltic 39. They had their artwork deteriorate to reflect, like, the meaning of it, and I'd like to sort of have the content of the video and the video itself work with each other. So I'd have the video like it's filmed on film, and it's like the reel is deteriorating and, like, breaking down as the video goes on, and as, like, the person's mental state gets worse. So really having the medium reflect it and really just taking advantage of it. And it also fits with some of the surrealist elements I wanted to put in. There is audio, stuff like distorted voices, music getting messed up, and it's going on with some, like, distorted visuals, all the, like, surrealist elements I want to add in. This is all. I just want all of this to sort of work together. I don't want to just have one thing. I don't want to just have the audio doing something, then there's the videos and doing it. I want it all to work together and really come together. Just take advantage of every single thing. my inspirations are my big one, the thing that sort of really kickstarted this whole thing is uh, the facial expressions experiments, 1924 by Carney Landis. He basically got he got mostly medical students in the first one. There's two experiments. The first one was mostly medical students. He put them in a lab and subjected them to stuff like electric shocks, graphic images, pornography, and even in the second one, the most controversial was decapitating a rat's head. And he would take photos of their facial expressions, and the idea was he wanted to capture raw facial expressions, not like fake reaction. He wanted to see how humans really react to stuff when they don't expect it, and to see if there was like a consistent reaction to each stimuli, which there wasn't in the end. But I just found that very interesting, and I kind of wanted to make that into some sort of project. And it was also alongside this, probably my second biggest inspiration is a series of self-portraits by Brian Shanley. Um, he suffered from schizophrenia, and he did a series of self-portraits as his schizophrenia was getting worse, and each one gets more and more distorted and less recognizable, like being Brian Shanley. And in the end, he ended up committing suicide, with the last portrait being speculated whether it's finished or not. Um, that kind of deterioration, being able to like see someone's mental health reflected in art, really connected with me as someone who does struggle with some mental health issues. Being able to sort of show it in a artistic form is something that really connects with me, and something I'm very interested in, and the reason I'm wanting to do this. Um, Another inspiration, which I basically stole the title from as well, is the Downward Spiral album by Nine Inch Nails. Basically, Trent Reznor is one of the members of Nine Inch Nails. The lead member is known as being like this tortured artist kind of figure, and this was their second album, and it was they basically wanted to capture like a young person's descent into like drug abuse and their entire life just spiraling out of control because of it. And a lot of the songs do have stuff that I really like in the Downward Spiral, like the song on the album. There's use of a lot of whispery voices. Um, Sounds like there's one in particular, and like Mr. Self-Destruct, the opening song. So it's like the I'm the needle in your vein. Taunt. Basically, it's this addiction is taunting him, um, and I want to have some of those like distorted voices um, in my project that have the voices taunt and like said doubtful stuff to the protagonist, the person in the room whose head we're in. Um, There's other small inspirations like Radiohead, just generally the mood of that music, it being kind of moody, kind of desolate, especially the art by Tom York for some of the albums. Especially the one, the Amnesia art. To me, that art has always felt lonely and very isolating, which is how I'm kind of wanting to my video to feel. Like how oh, another thing I want to do with like the video is make it feel more like claustrophobic with the lighting. So when they're in a good mental state, it starts off quite bright and like just normal lighting, it seems okay. But as it gets more on and on, it gets like darker, more harsher, like maybe red lighting, or just even normal white lighting, but it's like dimmer, um, more grimy, and in hopes that it will feel more isolating and claustrophobic. Because when you are in that kind of mental state, and I know from experience, you feel very isolated from everyone. You feel like there's no escape. And I think the best way to capture that in video form would be without the visuals, and also um, have sort of the audio of the Discord voices, they get louder and louder and more consistent, and maybe possibly have the video filmed in 4:3. It would fit with the kind of maybe 90s, 80s, 70s like videotape vibe I kind of want to go for. Um, so having it filmed 4:3 would make sense for that context, but would also help making the video, the room, feel more isolated. But I could be restricted on that depending on where I get the film. I could have the film in a normal like 16:9 ratio just because I need to fit everything in. But I want to do my best to have it be 4:3 and just see if I can fit everything in there. Um, my idea is I'll storyboard it, script it before I start filming. Make sure everything's planned out. I want this to be very thoroughly planned out. I don't want to leave anything, or I don't want to leave too much up to um, just doing last minute, doing on the fly. I want this to be very like just film in one day. Um, but that is basically it. There's some stuff that I do want to possibly add in. I'm not sure how. Is things like kabuki puppets. Um, I like how they're very human like, or maybe even not in kabuki puppets, just ventriloquist dummies. But I think kabuki in particular, I like how uncanny the movements are. And like they look almost human, but not completely human. Like, they look human at a distance, and they're very uncanny and very weird, the performances they give, but I'm not 100% sure how I can incorporate that into this. So it's an idea I have, but it might end up getting scrapped because I just don't know how it fits into all of this. There's just the idea of the experimenter, the person in the room controlling the protagonist. Um, the protagonist being the puppet and the experiment being a puppeteer. I think that might just be too much, but it's something I do want to try and fit in. Um, there's also like inspiration for how I want the room to be messy is it's I can't remember the name of or like the title of the artist, but in Middlesbrough I saw a, a piece. It was an art piece, an exhibition, um, and it was a video installation, and it was in this room, which was very messy. There was like packets and cans, just rubbish, clothes, just general just stuff everywhere. It felt very lived in, and when I was in there, it felt I felt like the person who lives there isn't well. They're not well mentally. I'd kind of when I was stood there in the room, I tried to put myself in the shoes of the person who would be living there, and it just felt I felt isolated from the rest of the world. I just wanted to stay there and not interact with anyone else. Um, just stay at home and watch the TV, and that's very much the vibe I'm kind of want to go for with the Downward Spiral, my video. Just really capture that feeling of depression and isolation, and that just general feeling like you're losing your mind. Um, there's also other things like COVID, like isolation. That's something I've had to do a couple of times. That literally is isolation, and I feel very separated from other people. Um, and use some personal experience of that, which I think a lot of other people who've been through it will understand and might be able to take from the video. But yeah, basically, yeah.